Disclaimer. The following podcast contains material and language of a strong sexual nature that may not be suitable for minors. While not in every episode, this podcast may contain triggering subject matter that may be brought up without warning. Any information or advice given is for entertainment purposes only. We are not doctors. Please consult your physician with any medical questions or before making any decisions regarding your health. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Clap your clit.
Eat your meat.
Jerkin the gherkin.
Firing off some knuckle children.
Playing tug of war with the Cyclops.
Jerking off.
Shuffle your iPod.
Lubing the tube.
Tickle your pickle.
And pet the kitty. That's right, children. You voted, and this week we're talking all about self-love. It's not always by yourself. This time, it's masturbation in the sack.
With Seth and Sarah. And if anyone wants the full list of 519 euphemisms for masturbation, just hit us up on one of our socials, and I'll get it to you.
It's a real rip-banger laugher of a list, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know what surprised me the most about this? This wasn't even close. This poll was overwhelmingly masturbation. Y'all love yourselves, and I love you for it. It
was pretty, yeah. It was, whew.
I really think that...
But you know what?
What's that?
So I really think that the reason masturbation won out so much over everything else is because, like, we like to joke about it. Like, people talk about it in a very lighthearted way, but I really don't know that it's discussed heavily, like, in a serious way.
I don't think it's...
Like, do we really talk about it?
I don't think we talk about it in a mature nature. We don't talk about the actual act. We like you said, we joke about it. We make fun of it, but we don't say, hey, how do you do it? Do you have any tips how I can do it better?
Right. Like, we talk about it like, oh, like, I jerk off, you know, or like, oh, he's a jerk off or whatever. Yeah, but it's not something that's really just discussed.
Yeah. And I mean,
so I think people are curious and they have concerns.
I mean, there's no question. We all do it. But
oh, absolutely.
I think the thing that you really want to talk about first, and you really drilled this home when we had our pre-show meeting, was you want to talk about the difference between masturbation and self-exploration that, you know, you do as a child.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so one of the biggest things that I think really got me into talking about sex, period, with people was masturbation. I'm a very pro-masturbation. Like, you just fucking do it. Like, I don't understand the hang-ups. You know, learn to love yourself first.
Figure out what feels best for you.
Well, exactly. You know, like self-love, self-care should come before anything else.
They really say, and I think it's at least partially true, you cannot please anyone, you can please yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't expect anyone else to know how to please you unless you know how to please you.
Absolutely.
So, but all of that aside, one of the biggest things that I really started to notice when I started having discussions with people about masturbation was how little we talk about where it begins and how early it starts. And you and I touched base about this, I think, in the first episode. And we were talking about our first sexual experiences and sexual awakenings and how it got started. And masturbation starts before sexual awakening happens. Masturbation starts as a very non-sexual act as young as like toddlers, like little kids. And I wanted to get this out of the way first because when you're dealing with a sex topic on a sex podcast and you start throwing around words like toddlers, fucking alarm bells, guys. Like, that's not okay normally. So I want to put this in the front of the episode. We're going to get this out of the way and we're done talking about it. But I really felt like it was something that needed to be discussed. So real fast, got it in a format. So I'm going to run through it real quick. not awkward at all. Self-exploration starts toddlers, little kids. They're going to tug their ears, they're going to play with their noses, they're discovering their bodies. And that means they're touching their penises, they're touching their vaginas. It's going to happen. They're finding their feet, they're finding their body parts, they're learning everything. Little boys, they're going to tug on their penises. It's going to get hard. That is a very natural physiological response to stimulation. Kids put shit in their noses. They put it in their ears. We see it in the emergency department. We see it in the pediatrician's offices. Parents are bringing their kids in and we're removing stuff from orifices. Little girls are no exception to this with
Well, I was going to
vaginas.
ask you about that.
They
You know,
will put things in holes.
being, working in the medical field for the both of us, has a single parent ever come to you with their opposite gender child because you were the same gender as the child, been like, what do I do here? I've had so many women come to me and be like, hey, my son's complaining of this. What do I do? All right, let me talk to him for a minute. Let me figure out what's going on here. Have you ever had a single dad approach you with a little girl and been like, what's
I
going on
have
here?
not actually been in that situation. Mm-mm.
I guess that's more from me being in the
No.
field and you being at the hospital, maybe, possibly.
Yeah. Well, and in the area I work in, I don't tend to work with little children.
That's
So
fair. That's fair.
yeah, I don't see too many little ones. So the University of Michigan did a study and found that by the age of 5, children of both sexes are regularly playing with their genitals. They're just fucking doing it because they're kids and it's their bodies. And just like they're playing with any other part of their bodies, they're going to play with their genitals. It feels good. So unless the parent guardian figure is shaming them, shouting at them, hitting them, whatever, to tell them to stop doing it, they're going to do it. They're going to do it because it feels good. They're going to do it to self-soothe. It's going to be just as common as sucking on a thumb, sucking on a finger. They don't see it as good or bad. They don't see it as a sexual act. There's no association whatsoever with it other than it's a comfort measure. It feels good to them. They're doing it.
I can agree with most of that. I definitely self-explored very early, as I'm sure we discussed. You did too. I mean, off mic before we talked about this, and you said you did too. There was almost certainly a sexual connotation with me. I knew that it was something adult that I was doing.
Well, we're talking like 2-year-olds.
Okay, but I'm talking to myself as like
we're talking like 11-month,
Okay,
1-year-olds at this
I'm
age.
thinking of myself. I'm thinking of myself as a 4 or 5-year-old.
No. Like at this age, we're talking like potty training.
Well, that's fine. Well,
yeah, we're talking like little ones.
A lot of times too, with the potty training from kids I've seen, it's just a cleanliness issue because there's things down there that shouldn't be down there. Maybe as a little girl, it's wiping the wrong way or something along those lines. Something itches down there.
Well, and I'm going to get to that next. So typically by the age of 5 or 6, most kids are socialized enough to understand what behaviors are acceptable for public and what behaviors are only acceptable to do in private. So like your kid's out in public with their finger up their nose. You're like, don't put your finger in your nose. And they're at home in their bedroom and their finger's in their nose and no one's telling them not to put their finger in their nose. So they're going to learn it's okay for me to have my finger in my nose as long as I'm in my room. And those behaviors are learned. That's part of socializing. And the same thing is going to happen with touching their genitalia. But again, by the age of 5 or 6, most kids, I don't want to say the novelty has worn off, but the novelty is worn off. They've learned all the various parts of their body. They've learned to do other things and they're distracted by fucking life. They're going to kindergarten.
But then there's a whole
brands or whatever 5-year-olds do.
There's a whole new learning when you hit puberty.
Well, there's like a whole new world.
But
what you were saying as far as, other things. Yeah, no. As far as what you were saying with other things going on down there are times with children, and this is where the PSA comes in. Anyone who has exposure to children, young children, whether you're a parent, a guardian, a sitter, older sibling, cousin, aunt, uncle, whatever. If you see a child who's touching their genitalia, like whatever, like it's normal, it's natural, it's healthy. Don't slap their hand, tell them it's gross, tell them it's bad, whatever. Like it's fine that they're doing what kids do. Unless if they're doing it a lot, if they're itching, if it's painful, if it's if they're doing it so much that they're injuring themselves, if they're like scratching themselves raw, that's a problem. It could be an infection. It could be a compulsion. They could have an anxiety disorder. They could have an OCD. Something else is going on and they need to see a doctor. If you can't distract them away from the activity, if they are simulating intercourse with another child, if they are engaging in a mouth to genital simulation with another child, if they are showing an understanding of what occurs between what would be two adults in a sex act, those are all, of course, red flags that there's probably something going on,
Yeah, child on
some kind
child,
of
yeah,
molestation
yeah, child on
situation.
child sexual abuse is a real thing, and it can develop
Yes.
into people's older ages. Of people that abuse children were abused as children. A lot of
Yes.
the, not saying
Yeah.
exclusively, but I'm saying a lot
Right.
of the time.
So those are all, definitely red flags to look for. Those are situations that are not normal. But, again, like a little boy's walking around fiddling it like a worry stone. It's like, fuck, let him. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
Don't don't bother him. He's okay.
very fair.
You know, the 3-year-old's, grinding her crotch on the side of the sofa, getting all red in the face and breathing hard. Like, you know what? It's okay. Like, it's creepy. Like, it's weird. It makes us uncomfortable as adults, but, just like give her some Play-Doh. Be like, here, go do something
Right.
else. Turn on Barney. Like, whatever you need to do, distract her. Like, I don't fucking throw some blocks at her.
All right.
I mean, not at her, that's abuse. So moving on, that's all I have to say about that.
Hold on, before we move on, personal story time, because I
Yes.
got reminded of it. When I was
Oh God,
when I was in
trigger.
kindergarten, there was this thing I would really like to do. So mind you, I'm 5 or 6, I forget how old I was at that point, like what year it was. But I would like lean super far forward into my chair, and I would have like the pressure of like my upper body on my lower body, and that would feel real nice. And I can only imagine what my poor
Mm-hmm.
teacher thought, because here's just me like hunched over, like going, oh. So I'm sure that was super creepy for poor old Miss Teacher Lady.
I remember being in, I don't know if it was kindergarten or first grade. I think it was kindergarten. There was it had to have been kindergarten because we were like sitting in groups. Anyway, there was a boy who sat next to me, and I remember looking over one time and he had his shorts pulled up. I mean, this was like the late 80s. So, boys in their shorts. So he had his shorts pulled up, like past the crease of his groin. And he had I don't remember if it was like his testicle or his penis. Anyway, but he had it like pulled kind of to the side. And he was just like rubbing the tip of his pencil like along the side of it. Like
Okay.
just like itching himself, but he was like doing it like he was real into it. And I
All
remember
right.
looking and I'm like, the hell is
I
he
mean,
doing
my story was
in
weird, but
my 5-year-old
that's
mind?
far weirder. We're moving on now. Next topic, please.
All right. So moving up in age slightly to sexual awakening. So whatever kids are doing then, there's a gap and sexual awakening starts happening. And now we have like 9-year-olds. As early as 9, kids report they're starting to masturbate. And now they're actually masturbating for sexual gratification. They're having the thoughts, they're having the desires, and they are taking action. It's starting with boys, of course.
Of course, right?
Not, of course, it's starting with
Yeah.
boys,
What kind of
but
bullshit is that?
it's starting with boys. No, that's not what I meant. I said it and then I realized it sounded bad. It's starting with boys, as far as boys are reporting it, girls under 13, they really don't have any information on. Girls under 13 are not reporting masturbating. They're just
Do you think
not.
it's a shame issue, or do you think it's more boys are more open, or is the parents holding them back, or?
Well, there was another study done, and they really believe like the magnitude of underreporting in young adolescent girls is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not established, but they really believe that it may be very substantial because of social stigmas.
I mean, you were under 13, right?
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to note
Mm-hmm.
here is when we're talking about masturbation, we're not necessarily talking specifically with girls, also with boys, but I'm saying specifically with girls. Masturbation not necessarily being something being inserted into the vagina or anything happening to climax.
Mm-hmm.
Masturbation does not have to happen to climax.
No.
It's literally just a manipulation of the genitalia that results in good feelings and the release of hormones, pleasant feelings. And if it ends in climax, fantastic. Hoorah.
It's the
So,
ultimate goal, but it's not always attained.
and it's not necessarily the ultimate goal. The
For
ultimate goal.
guys, it is.
Well, well, I mean, if you guys stop like mid go, it's a little more painful.
Well, I
I
mean,
can get halfway through and be like, well, that was fun.
there is that, the old blue balls thing, but at the same time, yeah, sure, it feels great, but if you told me that that was all it was going to be, I wouldn't do it. If you told me about
You wouldn't start.
yeah, if you told me that at the end I got this, yeah, I'm totally going for it. But if the good feelings that were up to it were all that it was, I wouldn't be interested, to be honest with you.
That's fair. So anyway, hey, so yeah, so as early as 9 years old, kids are starting to masturbate.
Mhm.
Uh,
I buy it. I buy
and
it completely.
so it starts, yeah, for girls, they're saying it starts at 13, but I'm not buying that.
No, there's no way. Knowing the girls that I know, love you, ladies.
Anywho, so that's it. So that's background. So that's kids on up. So now we're in
Hmm.
grown-ups as far as dealing with that. So where are we now? I think first thing to say is it's okay if you don't masturbate, by the way.
Yeah, I think you'd have some doctors that
I think
yeah,
that's important to
there'd
say.
be some doctors that would say that if you had a complete lack of sex drive, that is a problem. But
Yeah.
if you just don't,
There's a difference between a lack of sex drive
a
and
lack of drive,
not wanting to
yeah,
masturbate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge difference. You could have a libido out of this world and just keep it in check. You know,
Well, yeah. And do you just prefer to have a partner? I mean,
hmm,
just because you don't want to masturbate doesn't mean that you're not getting your rocks off.
exactly. Or you're
Yeah.
just,
I mean, you do
yeah.
you.
But I mean,
There's no shame in not masturbating if you don't want to masturbate,
true, and
but that has to be your choice.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we briefly discussed in a previous episode, and we'll circle back and touch on it again. But how did you find out about it? I mean, what? I mean, just how?
It was just kind of like there. Just
Not the best story, Sarah.
no. Here's the thing. I have always been pretty fucking aware of my body. Like, I don't understand. I have a very difficult time understanding, or I guess being on the same page as adults who are only just now discovering their bodies. I mean, my biggest thing was I was 17 when I discovered my clitoris.
Good
But
lord,
up until then, like I had been
were you
masturbating.
climaxing?
But I
Were you
what?
climaxing?
I was not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good question because you said earlier that you were
Yeah.
not masturbating correctly. So why don't you go into that, how you were not
Uh-huh.
doing it correctly?
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the beautiful, beautiful thing about yeah, fucking sex education, non-existent. So for I don't know, probably 7 years or so, I was masturbating with my fingers, obviously. I stole one of my mom's tampons and took the cotton out. So it was just the hollow plastic applicator. I used that.
That sounds like the worst dildo ever.
Oh my God. Phew. You would be amazed at the things young girls will put in their body. Pretty much anything remotely phallic shaped, as long as it was approximately the size of my finger. Another thing I liked to do was in the bathtub. Like if I had like an empty shampoo bottle or something, if I would like fill it up with water, I could lay in the bathtub and like basically jet water at my genitals
Mm-hmm.
and it would feel good.
Well,
Cause like I couldn't just let the water run or my parents would be like, stop running the
that
water.
ties into the,
And I didn't have jets,
yeah, we
Seth.
talked about that in, was that episode one, or was that the sex toy episode?
uh
Regardless, talk about the past, but we'll, like I said,
no, I think that was episode
we'll circle
one.
back. Um, I had
Yeah.
this giant bathtub in my house with literally jets all over it. Just every inch of it was covered in these jets. It was the best jacuzzi ever. And I would just lay there, and the water would run over my member, and it just felt really nice. And I laid there one day, and I climaxed. I'm like, a whole new world's open. Like, oh my god, I've what? I can do this? Like, no drug could compare to this ever. And now, mind you, I was 11, 10, so I didn't know that, but it was like the greatest moment of my life. And I didn't start, quotes, traditionally male masturbating until I was 13 or 14. I kept using the hot tub because it worked so well until I started watching, pornography. And I saw, what's that guy doing? That looks a lot easier. I could do that in my bedroom. I don't have to take six baths.
Well,
I
here's
don't have to take 6 baths a day. You know.
well, here's a fantastic thing about
Mm.
that. See, I'm what, 14 maybe? Or no, I was younger than that. I guess I was probably 12 when I watched my first porn. But porn being what it is was all about the P and the V.
Mm-hmm.
So that was all I assumed sex was.
You get
I mean,
yeah,
at least the porns that I had access
yeah.
to at that
You get a
age.
lot more. I mean, it's really not foreplay, but it's other things in movies now than you did back then.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say probably more often than not now,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, what I had access to then. So it was like, okay, well, I'm doing it right, and she's obviously having a good time. So, and I mean, and it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured, all right, well, so I just kept at it. And then, and, and then a couple years later, then I was sexually active. And my partners were obviously no fucking help.
They were young. Cut them some slack. Okay, so that
No.
reminds me of this scene from a movie. There was this movie that Ben Stiller made in the early '90s called Your Friends and Neighbors. You ever heard of it?
It sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever seen
So
it.
it's Ben Stiller and a bunch of his friends from the movie. I don't remember any of the other actors. They're sitting around talking about their greatest sexual partners. They're about, their wives and ex-girlfriends. And this one guy goes, my greatest sexual partner is me. No one's given me more pleasure than I've given myself. And you know what? That's fucking true. Have I had better sex with other people? Sure. The best sex of my life is with partners, but no one has gotten me off more times than me. And that's just a fact.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. No, so I was 17 and I was with a girlfriend and we were talking about sex and she was the first person that I ever really talked about sex with. And yeah, and she was like, "Well, how do you masturbate?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, how do I masturbate?" And she was like, "Well, how do you masturbate?" And I'm like, "Well, I just, with a finger." And she's like, "Well, do you rub your clit?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? Do I rub like what is that?"
So were you just like jamming your finger in and out of the birthing canal, or what were you doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
basically.
okay. I mean, whatever works.
Yeah.
I
And then
was,
I was surprised, like, sometimes I would get wet
yeah.
and, like, sometimes I wouldn't. Like, I really had no idea what this whole moisture thing was
Uh,
about.
You really were repressed, weren't you?
Yeah, so then the first time I rubbed my clit and I got wet and I was like, "The fuck is
Did I
this?
just pee?
This is amazing." It's like, "Did I just piss myself?"
So,
No, this is fantastic. And then I found out I'm a squirter, so that's like a whole 'nother story.
oh, you just got a whole legion of more fans now.
Only one person has ever made me do it, and I married him.
Oh, isn't that sweet? All right, so I think the next best thing to talk about is changing it up. Is it always the same? Guys joke about doing the stranger, where you jerk off with the other hand. So
I thought the stranger was I thought that was when you sat on your hand until it went
there's
numb.
different definitions. That is one of them. Yes. There's also doing it from like a backhand position, where it almost feels like somebody else is doing it.
Okay, so I'm not gonna
Mhm,
lie. I was in a voyeur
mhm,
group. Okay, so I like watching guys jerk off. It's one of my
okay.
things. Anyway, I like watching guys jerk off. And okay, first off, ladies and men, I mean, whoever, people, if your partner has a dick, and really, I mean, this can go for anybody, watch other people masturbate. And I know that this is going to sound weird, but watch other people masturbate and then like try some of those things on your partner because there's a good chance your partner has been doing it one way or maybe like two ways.
Hmm.
Like they've been trying things like their whole life, but maybe that's a way that they've never tried because they've never thought to try it that
Can I
way.
interject very briefly here about that?
Do it.
I love mutual masturbation. It's fantastic. However, it should be. Again, this is not should be. This is my case. It should be something you go to just for something different like that. Because, and again, I'm not saying this is exclusive. For the most part, hey, honey, I can do that better than you.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
100%.
mean, I mean, no offense to my partners, and I'm sure you don't either. But I have constant access to that equipment. I know how to do that. So this is fun. This is great. I'm loving this. But this is not an everyday thing for me, anyway. This is for me. There are probably people out there who absolutely adore, like almost an everyday thing, the mutuals. It's just not for me as an everyday thing.
Yeah, here's my thing, like, if we're gonna do mutual masturbation, like, if we're both masturbating, like, let's just masturbate ourselves.
Yeah,
Like, I'll just watch you jerk off, and you can watch me jerk off,
Jill off,
and then
Jill
we'll
off.
both be happy.
Well,
Whatever.
there is.
That's
There is
stupid.
there is to me an extreme hotness for that. I would love to see that, and have her see that. I think it would be that. Ugh, it's awesome to me. That is better than the mutuals. But again,
Yeah, see, I think that's better than me trying to jerk them
yeah,
off while they're trying to jerk me off. I just because it's just like fucking hands are getting in the way, and it's just like,
yeah.
and then you're like, no, move, and they're like, no, move, and like,
Don't do
well,
it
let me get in there, and like,
counterclockwise, you dumbass.
and then you're like, just fucking lay back and let me give you a blowy. This will be over so much faster.
Oh, we're learning things once again, ladies and gentlemen. So, I mean, is it always to get off? Because in my case, no, absolutely
Well, you just said it was.
not. No, but okay, but okay. Here's the thing.
Don't go back.
No, I'm no. Let me clarify my point. If I'm tired and I can't sleep, have that easy banger one out, and I'll be asleep. If I'm super anxious or scared, there's times where that's calmed me down. That endorphin rush. If I'm hungry and nothing to eat, it works that way too. It just kind of like,
Distraction.
yeah, and like then I can maybe sleep or just whatever. But
Yeah.
it always is to get off, but it's not that. I'm not horny. I'm just something else is going on.
So you're doing it to get off, but you're not doing it because you're
No,
horny.
I mean it's to get off to it's cause and effect.
Right, but you're doing it to get off. You're just not doing it because you're horny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
but you're doing it to get
I've done it when
off.
I'm bored before. It's like I need to kill some time. We'll do that.
I've 100% done it because I'm
Yeah,
bored.
well, yeah, but
But no, but that's actually like so here's the thing. So when it comes to masturbation, like it has some real fucking
oh
benefits.
yes, absolutely.
Like real
I mean,
benefits.
just from the
And
male standpoint, we're talking reduced rate or risk of prostate cancer and,
Now, okay, now hold on.
yes.
So that actually hasn't been proven.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with it. It's a reason to do it. Why not?
No, there's still plenty of reasons to do it. No, so there's one school of thought that said it increases the risk of prostate cancer, and then another school that says it decreases the risk of prostate cancer, but neither one has been proven.
All right, so let's just go with this one. It keeps your sheets clean because, guys, you're going to evacuate your chamber regardless. So you might as well do it in a,
So do it in advance.
yes.
Get it over with. No, when you orgasm, your body releases hormones. You release dopamine, which is your happiness hormone, which is your body's like reward system. So, yeah, when you do something like really good and you get like a pat on the head and you get that rush of pleasure, like, yes, like I just won that race and I got this gold trophy, and you get that rush of pleasure, that's dopamine. It releases endorphins, which is your body's natural painkiller, also a mood booster. It releases oxytocin, which is your love hormone or your cuddle hormone. It releases prolactin, which influences your mood and your immune system. So there's actually, there are people out there trying to prove that masturbation boosts your immune system, but there's not enough funding, I guess, out there. No one willing to pay a bunch of people to beat off a whole lot to prove that their immune system is increased by masturbating.
If Larry Flint was still alive,
sadly,
if Larry Flint was still alive, he'd be funding this.
He'd be funding
it. I mean, Hugh Hefner both.
Yeah. This is a fun one that I thought was interesting. Well, I mean, I knew, but I still think it's interesting. Have you ever heard the rumor, Seth, that like athletes won't have sex or don't have sex like before they perform, like before a big game or something?
It takes the edge off.
Because it's going to like throw off their groove?
Yes.
Okay, well, supposedly the myth behind that is that having sex, like when you orgasm, when a man orgasms, the orgasm will lower the testosterone level. So masturbation will drop the testosterone level.
Which on the same level.
Which is false.
Yes, that's very false. On the same level, people like Ronda Rousey and other female athletes have said that they have a lot more sex leading up to events or fights to try and increase their testosterone, which is equally false.
Well, actually, testosterone levels are increased after orgasm, but it's very small and temporary. Like it's very temporary. So testosterone levels peak before sex starts. So like when you're looking at your partner and you're like, or okay, here, we're going to take the partner out of it. So say you, Seth, are like, man, I just had a stressful day. I'm going to go home and I'm going to beat one off and I'm going to go to bed.
The typical Wednesday.
So you're heading home and you're thinking about going home, taking off your pants, putting your dick in your hand. So all the way home, you're thinking about that. You've got that fantasy working on in your brain.
Man,
your body is already producing testosterone.
You're giving me way too much credit. It's I with me anyway, I'm like the old married couple of masturbation. When I do it, it's like, you know what? Yeah, okay. There's not all. I don't like candles. I don't have a.
Would you just work with my goddamn fantasy here?
No,
just for like 5 minutes.
No, I can't. I cannot lie to the people. These people depend on me.
Okay, well, whatever. All right. So as soon as you start fantasizing, as soon as you start getting like all those tingly, sexy feelings, your body starts producing testosterone.
When I turn the porn on?
And it's, yes, as soon as you turn the porn on, yes, you start producing testosterone. And then as soon as, the action starts happening, you're producing testosterone. And the whole point of testosterone is to increase your stamina so that you can fuck to orgasm. That's the whole point of testosterone. So yeah, so after orgasm, you have slightly higher testosterone levels, but they're very small and very temporary, and it affects both sexes, not just men. The myth was started by the Greeks and Romans because they would not allow the gladiators or the soldiers or whoever to have sex before doing their thing because they thought being sexually frustrated made them more aggressive.
I can almost see
You're
it. I
welcome.
can almost see like a clear-headedness, like you're not thinking about sex. There's other things to be in your head, like the big event coming up, but you're still, if you're anything, if you're a normal man or woman, you're thinking about the sex.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's in our nature. We can ignore food, danger, and sex. So I mean,
Yeah, no, basically. Flee, fight, fuck.
yes,
Basic biology.
precisely.
Oh, good times. So,
So why
yeah.
don't you go and introduce our next
So what do you,
bullet point for us that we're going to talk about?
so why we don't talk about masturbation?
Exactly.
Because the first rule about masturbation is we don't talk about masturbation.
Now, you and I, again, the whole reason we're doing this show is because we've always been very frank with each other. We
Yeah.
talk about this with our friends too. For the most, at least I do. I usually you
Yeah.
do as well. What age did you start
Yes.
feeling comfortable talking about it? Because for me, it was probably God, not until I was in my 20s where I can have a mature adult conversation about it. There'd be, guess what I did last night, guys? Yeah, totally did stuff. I touched a boob. As to where
Well,
now it's like we have conversations about, oh yeah, oh you try this, try that. Oh, okay, let me give it a shot. It might work.
well, like I said, I think my first conversation about masturbation was with my one friend at 17, who introduced me to the
You owe
clitoris.
her so much.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I do.
Do you think you would have?
No, she's brilliant.
Do you
She's
think you
amazing.
would have eventually found it without her help? Was it just you found it earlier because of her, or you would have reached it?
I think I would
Okay.
have. Yeah, no. I'm pretty freaking confident I would have. I mean, if I hadn't found it myself, God, I hope I would have eventually found a partner who would have been like, hey.
But I think one of the main reasons we don't talk about it is the stigma and the, again, air quotes, sinful nature of masturbation.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that really probably is the only reason that we don't.
Because I mean, yeah, there's
Because
so many religions.
I mean, just sex in
Yeah,
general is such a taboo
for
subject.
some, obviously it's not for us.
Well,
We are the minority. I know.
you know, well.
But I mean, there are some religions
No, but it is.
there are some religions that call masturbation, adultery because you're essentially cheating on your future spouse, and that is one of the main reasons why I don't fuck with religion.
Well, I mean, they
They
vary
do.
in their
They
reasonings.
do.
It's you're cheating on your future spouse. It's because you are putting yourself before God because it's a
Selfish act.
because it's a selfish act. Uh, I mean, they, the reasons vary, but I mean, you've got, the biggest religions, basically. You've got Catholicism, you've got all of your conservative Christians, basically, your traditional Islamics, the Mormons,
Judaism.
Jewish people, anyone who, Judaism. Those are the big ones. Buddhists, Hindus. Hey, you guys are good.
Who knows what Scientology?
I was reading about Hindus. Yeah, Hinduism, they're all like, you know what? Sexual freedom, guys.
Yeah, who knows what Scientologists do because they're Scientologists and weird?
Because I haven't paid enough into the organization to find
And
out.
there it is. So I mean, how much?
Yeah, no. So I mean, it's not just that, but it's this idea that touching yourself, and again, that
Did you feel those stigmas yourself growing up, or did anyone that you know really felt them?
So I did not grow up in a religious household, and I was not close to anyone who was religious. So no.
One of my best friends in late elementary, early middle school was a Jehovah's Witness. So they are.
I mean, not. I mean, Jehovah's Witness, do your thing.
Yeah, they're a little odd. They really are. And God, it was God, so much it was a giant taboo. You never, ever, ever do that. That's sinful, dirty. And he became this super repressed early teen, like, ugh. And he eventually just exploded into this super rebellious late teens, early 20s guy. He's no longer in the religion and really resents the religion to an extent for taking away those years of what could have been great exploration of himself and potentially others.
Oh, that's sad.
Good guy.
Well, that's good.
So
I don't know.
tying into the stigma, and really, I love some of these. There are so many myths and legends about masturbation.
Oh,
And, starting from
my
everything
goodness.
from like guys will get hairy palms to they'll go blind to it either decrease.
Oh, some of these were just, oh my gosh.
Some of them are
So,
decreasing or increasing the size of your member. It's like, what? Pick
okay.
one.
So I want to throw something out there
Uh-huh.
first. So I've mentioned before that I write
Erotica.
erotica. Yeah, that's something that I enjoy doing. And I have specific people that I enjoy writing with.
Hmm.
And one of my writing partners has become a listener. And I told them that we were doing an episode on masturbation. And they wrote to me and they said, hey, I'm thanks to WebMD. I know it's a shitty source of information. And maybe it's a whole different topic for you two to cover. I sometimes wonder if I'm a chronic masturbator. There was a lengthy period for like a decade where I was masturbating daily, and I'm kind of concerned about lasting damage. Now, disclaimer again, we are not doctors, but I thought that this was perfect because that hits like at least two, if not three, of the big myths
Hmm.
that are out there. One, that you can masturbate too much, which is false.
Yes. As long as there's not blood coming out of your penis from masturbating so much, you're
Right.
probably fine.
And I'm going to lump that in with you can become addicted to masturbating, which is also false. And that one is a little bit more difficult because being addicted to masturbation is not something that is recognized by the American Psychological Association.
No, it would tie
However,
more into sexual compulsion.
right. So if you're masturbating and you feel bad after, like if you cannot help yourself but to masturbate, and when you complete, you feel bad about it, but you cannot stop from doing it again, that is a compulsion, and it is called compulsive autoeroticism or possibly an OCD. It could be either. You need to be seen by a psychologist or psychiatrist. That is not an addiction. And that doesn't mean you're masturbating too much. That means that you have a psychological problem
Hmm.
and you need to be seen by a doctor.
Or, I mean, and there's people, and I've dealt with them in previous lines of work and behaviors, that sexual compulsion or sexual deviancy will like masturbate in public, and like that's not okay. That crosses a line. You do need to seek help for
Right. But
that.
again, but that is the masturbating in public.
Yes,
The
it's
in
not the
public,
masturbation; it's the public exposing yourself. It's the public nature of it. It's the problem. It's
right.
not the masturbation. It's the the,
Yeah.
the, the need and
Yeah.
desire to show other people that you're doing it.
Right. Right. So
Non-willing
that
subjects.
has nothing to do with the fact that they're wanting to
Yeah.
masturbate. That means that's has to do with the fact that they're wanting to show people their genitalia, that it's the exhibitionism, it's the shock factor, it's the
Once again,
the sexually acting out.
my little chickadees, consent is consent.
Exactly. And showing people your dick, your vagina, your whatever without their consent is fucking sexual assault, guys.
Has it happened to you? As someone,
Oh, absolutely.
look, I'm not gonna lie, it's happened to me too. Someone who I did not want to see naked was decided to in an attempt to seduce me, did this in front of me, and I'm like, look, this isn't okay. I told you no. I don't know what made you think this was gonna be what got me in your bed. Sorry, no. Good night, ma'am. And I
Right.
never spoke to that person again.
Right. So then the third part of that, so you can hurt yourself
Hmm.
by masturbating, masturbating at all or masturbating too much. That is false. With a caveat,
Yes.
use common sense. So if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Can I tell you a quick? This is not a me story, but this is a permanent scarring story for a poor young man. Again, this is not me. Not,
Yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes,
not that it
yes.
matters.
Actually, I think you have two. You have two stories
I have lots, but
that relate
yes,
to
but I'll tell
this
you this one, and
specifically.
let's put out these two real quickly. There's one I just remember that I didn't write
Yeah.
down. But there was a young gentleman who was very young. I think he was 12. So, do you remember those big Vest 3-liter soda bottles? You ever seen those before?
Yes,
So, yeah,
but keep in mind that those are gonna be locale specific.
okay.
So I don't know if everybody, so it may be Vess, it may be
Yes, but the
Fago,
big
but like a 3-liter
soda
soda
bottles.
bottle, normally it's gonna be like an off
Yes.
brand or like a
But
inexpensive brand
they
soda.
did have the slightly wider the
Shasta.
slightly wider mouths than the 2-liter bottles.
Oh, no, no.
So
Okay, I know where this
he
is
would
going.
insert himself into said bottle, and it felt really, really
Oh.
good for a while until he started noticing a severe discoloration on the underneath because he was a Latino gentleman. There was a severe discoloration on the bottom of his member. And finally, he went to the doctor with his mom and was like, "You have pigmented your skin. You have done damage to your skin. It is that color now. You poor boy, but this is what it is."
Oh, that's not at all what I thought was gonna
No, no,
happen.
no. He didn't get stuck, but he just discolored the bottom of his member
Oh, how the hell did he do
just
that?
from doing.
Like, that doesn't make any
Well, it
sense.
was just the rubbing and the rubbing and the rubbing, and he just eventually caused he just caused a skin irritation, a permanent skin irritation.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about over like
This
okay,
was like every
like days,
this
months, weeks,
he said
years.
he did
Okay.
this for like 18 months, like almost daily.
Okay.
The funnier one that I have, and this one killed me because I love this person and he's hilarious. And he's gonna feel so good that we're telling this story on the air. He's like, please tell it, it's great. But anyway, he was 14 years old and he just figured out how to do the act in general. And he just finished watching Family Guy, which is where he saw a slinky. The idea to put it on his dick was completely random, but figured it would tighten and choke his chicken until it choked a little too tight. Luckily, he was able to free himself before his parents got home. The toy was his 3-year-old brother's. It left some cuts and some light bleeding on his penis that eventually healed,
Oh, God.
but he was walking very uncomfortably for some time. He had to throw away the slinky because he bent it severely. And to this day, which he's in his 30s now, he has not told his parents this story.
That had to have been one of the like one of the plastic ones out of like the quarter
Yes, that
machine.
had to be
Like one of
terrifying.
the little ones.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh my
could
God.
be, could be.
Well, I mean, it's not like a traditional slinky. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been one of the smaller ones. Sure, who knows?
But it had to have
I had to.
been.
Oh, you're discounting him. I see already.
For it to get stuck on its dick.
This is true, unless he's twice the man John Holmes ever was.
A horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
Okay. Unless your friend is Mr. Ed.
So now I've always heard from you people being the late.
No, now hang on, hold
Yes.
on. Okay, so we're still talking about hurting yourself.
Okay.
We weren't done.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Use common sense so you don't hurt
Mhm.
yourself. First off, like our friends, don't use random objects. Don't be like me. Don't take the cotton out of a tampon applicator.
Do you know
Don't use a pen or
women told me they used a hairbrush? A
like
hairbrush is one I've heard a lot from women.
a hairbrush, makeup tubes.
Oh.
Let's see, what was another one? Oh, another listener submission here. Let's see. Fingers, small shampoo bottles, a thick highlighter. Anything that was phallic and thicker than my finger was fair game. A Polly Pocket doll.
Oh boy.
I'm going to assume that was one of the later 90, early 2000 ones that were bigger.
Yeah, because the little ones, I
Because
don't
when I was
know.
a kid, the Polly Pockets were like tiny. They were like pill
Yeah,
sized.
literally little tiny things.
Yeah, they were tiny, tiny. Yeah, so like none of those are good things to put in your body. Don't ever, anyone, put a soda bottle in your butt, in your vagina, in any orifice.
So okay.
Because suction, guys, is a thing. And your body's just gonna like suck it up.
Because so.
And then you're gonna end up in the emergency room and we're gonna pull it out and we're gonna take a picture of it.
So let me ask you about that because I'll say all you
No,
ladies have,
it will go in your
yeah,
chart.
all you ladies have told me that there are more things than just traditional sex toys. I think there are. So, okay. Years ago, when Harry Potter was new, that they had the broom, the Quidditch broom, and that thing sold like
Mhm.
hotcakes to adults because it the end of it did a circle and it vibrated. So that thing was selling like madness.
Oh, no.
So I will recommend self exploration even with objects as long as you can understand the risk involved in said thing. Like
Well, and here's the
mhm,
thing. Okay. All right. I'll-
a
mm.
cucumber.
If you can put a condom on it,
Uh-huh.
if you can put a condom on it and it's not glass and there's no sharp edges, there's no risk of it breaking, then I would say, I mean, yeah. But it has to be big enough that you can like get it back out.
So I'm guessing you.
Because that's another thing, because like stuff gets lost up there, like in
I'm guessing
orifices.
Sarah was not one with the exploration with inanimate objects. Then
Oh, Sarah did all kinds of exploring. Sarah has since grown up
Sarah's a smart girl.
and
All right, so getting
and witnessed the removal of said objects
outstanding.
from non-invasive and surgically invasive means.
So okay, getting back to the negatives and positives, like we were saying earlier before.
Yes, sorry.
That's
So
okay.
lube up, wash your toys, trim and clean your nails. That's how you're not going to hurt yourself by
So
masturbating.
I
Period.
have heard
Jerking off, you're not going to hurt yourself unless you chafe and it gets infected.
I've heard from a lot of women, and I mean a lot. I would say most of the women that I've talked to about this have absolutely confirmed it. So I'll ask you: does masturbation relieve period pain?
Fuck yes, it
Okay.
does.
Is it just the endorphins, or is it just like the muscles tightening and relaxing, or what do you think it is from your either
Okay, so
your
it's actually a combination. This is medically
mhm.
proven. This is not opinion. This is fact. So it's a combination of the contraction, the muscles contracting during orgasm helps to, because of course during your period the lining of your uterus is shedding and that's what's causing the cramping. It's the uterus contracting and pushing the shedded lining out through your cervix, and of course your cervix has to dilate to allow the clots, essentially the chunks of tissue, to pass, and it's all very painful. So the longer that process takes, the longer the pain lasts and the more it hurts, which is why hydrating is very good because then everything's a little bit thinner, passes a little bit easier. Ibuprofen is actually the best medication to take. That's also been proven to shorten the amount of time periods last and stuff, just so you guys know, and lessen the amount of bleeding you do. But anyway, orgasms help kind of push all that shit out. So you have an orgasm and you just kind of like, so it's messy, but you kind of get it in one go as opposed to sitting there cramping. And yeah, then you have the rush of endorphins, which, like we said before, is your body's natural painkiller. And then you get the dopamine. So then you get like the happy reward feeling and the oxytocin, which is your happy cuddle love hormone. So then you get the good happy feelings after. So yeah, so it's kind of all over good for you to masturbate on your period. 100% do it. So even if you feel disgusting and you don't want anyone else to touch you, because I'm saying, I mean, the roller coaster's closed doesn't mean you have to shut down the theme park. But,
Uh,
even if you want to put the close sign up for the day, doesn't mean that you can't,
okay.
go out there and turn the carousel on and take a spin
And again,
yourself.
I will only speak for myself as I only ever do. I don't speak for men in general. I don't mind going into the tunnel when it's Shark Week. I really don't. It doesn't bother me at all. But again, that's me. Yeah.
Most, I don't I don't know that I've ever had a partner who has not been okay with period sex.
Oh, I know a
I
couple
think the
men that
first
are
person
not
I
cool
was
with it.
ever with, also, I'm saying I've never been
Yeah.
with one. I think the first person I was ever with, he was like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, oh, I can't. I'm on, and he was like, oh, honey, skin is wash and wear. And I'm like, oh my God, I love
Was this
you.
the concert guy?
No, 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 this is a different one. No, the first guy I ever
Oh.
had sex with while I was on my period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just put a towel down or you do it in the shower, on. Hey,
Right.
it is what it is.
So yeah,
But
good
now,
times.
for those people who are not currently having periods because they're a child, it's always been kind of the thing where it's going to be harmful to the child or something along those lines. And I say, no, that's complete bullshit.
Well, there's kind of that myth about having sex when you're
Yeah,
pregnant, like it's not good to have sex when you're
or
pregnant.
people that are super
I had
pregnant
never
to induce
heard
labor.
Yeah. I had never heard that it wasn't safe to masturbate when pregnant. So
Mm-hmm.
that was actually a new one to me. So I had to read up about it a little, like why it wouldn't be. And it seems like the theories are that it can cause you to go into labor, which is actually
To an extent,
true-ish.
yeah, to an extent, it's true.
And then also, of course, there being risks with infection. But that goes into wash your toys, wash your hands, don't, you know, cut yourself up, rub yourself raw, whatever. So yeah, totally safe to masturbate when you're pregnant, with the exception of certain medical conditions like placenta previa, if you're at risk for early labor. So basically anything that your doctor would have talked to you about, or if you have any concerns, just talk to your doctor, ask him if there's any risk for you masturbating. And if your doctor says no, then you're good. But no, absolutely safe. If you have a normal, healthy pregnancy, go for it. Just fiddle away.
Have some alone time, if you
Fucking
will.
pregnancy is hard enough, man. Like, don't
I am so glad
make it harder than it needs to
so
be.
glad I'm a dude. And I tell you how much I'm glad I'm a dude, but that's just me.
We got to give those ladies something.
You live longer. You have multiple orgasms. You have that. Live with it, okay?
That's true. We can't pee standing up.
Yes, you can. Now you can. We discussed that last time. I'm gonna buy you a Shiwi or a Go Girl.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting.
All right, what's our next
All
bullet
right.
point?
Okay. So here's this. If you are not on a period, if you are not pregnant, if you are postmenopausal, so if you are done with all that jazz, we hear about older women who are done with all that, who are no longer enjoying sex because of various reasons. When a woman reaches a certain age, or when someone with a uterus reaches a certain age, they stop making the hormones that help with, sex drive and vaginal moisture. I mean, with stretching, with the elasticity of the vagina, there's a lot going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
Things just get kind of tough and dry, and you don't feel like you're in the mood. It's not great. So they've done studies now. Masturbation can actually ease postmenopausal sex problems.
Interesting.
So if you are masturbating with a water-based lubricant, it can prevent narrowing of the vagina. It can boost blood flow, relieve some of the tissue and moisture problems, and increase the libido.
I like it.
So yeah. So if you're a postmenopausal woman and you're noticing that you're having some of these issues, just start fiddling the twig. Go crazy. See what happens. Maybe you'll notice a little uptick.
So, I mean, before we get into a couple more listener stories, I got one more that I wanted to share and ask you about, okay, too, as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you discovered something new that you could do by yourself, or just that wasn't necessarily, that it was non-traditional? Because I have a pretty, I think, funny one for me. But is there anything that you've discovered in the past few years that you weren't doing before? Maybe a one-time thing, something like that?
I'm
I'll
just
tell you what.
thinking.
I'll tell mine, and then we can circle back to you. All right? Because I think mine is
You can always just start out with, I'm going to tell this story.
yes.
You can do that.
Well,
It's
I
okay.
wanted to run it by you first because I think this is tremendous. So
Okay. All right,
I
go.
sleep in those fleece sleep pants that everyone loves so much. I don't go out them in public because that's very redneck, but I don't. But I love sleeping in them. One day I woke up with the very very stereotypical morning wood, and I saw my stomach that morning, and I kind of like moved my waist, and my member rubbed against the sheets and the fleece sleep pants, and it felt really good. I'm like, oh, let me do that again. And I did it again. And it's like, I wonder if I kept doing this. I started feeling really good. I started feeling like sex. So I just started just grinding away on my bed. And then all of a sudden, I just came buckets right then and there. And I'm like, that was amazing. And mind you, this was only like a year or so ago that I did this. I have not attempted to replicate it since then. I kind of want to live in that moment, have that be that one special morning. But it was so cool.
Actually, I guess I did have no, you know what? I did. Okay, so I have a variety of sex toys.
Shocking.
But I have a Hitachi. I know, right? So I have a Hitachi. I don't really use it anymore because I kind of gave it up for my Dommy, but I have a Hitachi and the length of it is just perfect. That at the time I was in a situation where I was most comfortable when I was masturbating to be on my hands and knees. So I was masturbating on my hands and knees, and what I was doing was I would like, because I have short legs, I would prop the Hitachi like on the bed. So I would like wedge it with the head, of course, against my clit and the base of the Hitachi, the bottom of the Hitachi against the mattress. And then I could just basically like prop myself up on my forearm and, you know, every once in a while just make sure that like the Hitachi was where it needed to be. And then I could just kind of rock my hips against the head of the Hitachi. And it worked out just fine. It was great.
Have you tried?
And it was, I don't know, maybe like.
Have you tried like a back massager or something like that? Or no, it's just vibrators.
Well, this is just the Hitachi.
No, but what I'm saying is, in the past, did you ever try a back massager? Because I know there's one listener here that tells a story about using a back massager. Did you ever try that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Hitachis are body massagers.
Yes. Quotes, body massagers. We all know what they are.
So anyway, if I could tell my story.
Go ahead. Sorry. Spitting the truth. You know how I am.
So anyway, so I'm doing this. And not only did I come, but I squirted by myself.
Good for you.
Which I've never fucking done before. And I have not done since. Just the one time. No, I take that back. I did do it twice. Because then I did do it again. Yeah, it wasn't that long
so you
after.
Went back for more,
but I haven't been able to do it since.
Aww.
I did. Yeah, it was like the next day. I was like,
you tried?
Do that again.
Have you tried? And
I have.
Oh, that sucks.
Couldn't do it again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know what was going on, if it was my headspace, if it was, I don't know. Couldn't do it again.
But yeah, so again, we talked about the back massagers. Say this quick story of one of our listeners. We have a couple more after that.
Actually, real fast, before you get into that, I do want to point out there was another myth that I saw, which I fucking loved seeing this.
Okay.
Vibrators cause nerve damage.
I hate that one so much.
Oh my God, no, I love this because I always see this shit and it makes me so mad. I see memes.
How is a man supposed to please you when you're, hitting your clit with the clit hammer 9000? It's like, maybe you suck in bed, bro.
Right, it's like it shows some guy with like a jackhammer on, like a woman with a jackhammer, and it's like, how's a man supposed to please you when you have blah, blah, blah? And it's like, okay, first off, no. Second, no. Vibrators do not cause nerve damage. So here's the thing. If she's using a vibrator and she's not letting you near it.
Because you suck.
Again, studies.
Yeah.
I love studies. I love studies.
No,
I'm literally rubbing
is,
myself right now because I love scientific studies. They've done studies. Women masturbate more when they are not being pleased in the bedroom.
Shocking.
So if your woman is turning to her vibrator instead of to you, it's because you're not doing her job. Has nothing to do with the fact that she needs her vibrator because she has dulled her nerves, and everything to do with the fact
that you suck,
that you're not doing it right.
You suck. You suck.
Exactly.
You suck.
Now, I did learn that there is something called, okay, I have to find it so I say it right. I wrote it down. Death grip syndrome. Yeah, masturbation decreases sexual sensitivity in men.
No, absolutely
false. Mostly.
Nah.
Mostly false. There is something called death grip syndrome, not the medical term. Men can actually, or people with a penis, can actually masturbate with too hard of a grip. And if they do that too much, then they will eventually need a harder grip. But the cure for that is don't grip so hard.
Yeah, simple enough.
And you eventually won't need to grip so hard. And that's it. I mean, it's not permanent.
Do not literally choke the chicken, please.
Right, exactly. It goes away. Like, it's fine.
Lovely. So now we're prepared to go tell some stories?
Okay, now we can tell stories. Look,
Story
I'm
time?
sorry that I want to inform
Yes, and I want our.
our probably bored to death public.
Hey, they love us. Come on now. They love us and we love them. So this goes.
Actually, the only other thing that I want to talk about, one last thing. One last thing, I promise. This is it. This last thing.
Go ahead.
Negatives. The only negatives that I could
Mhm.
find, because I'd looked, I really did look. And aside from all the mumbo jumbo and like, you're going to go to hell or your penis is going to fall off or whatever, people who already have these issues can experience frustration, low libido, erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, something that I'd never heard of called post-orgasmic illness syndrome.
I would also tie into that people with delayed ejaculation in men. Like if you have trouble getting off, not just ED, but if you have trouble crossing the finish line, that could be
Oh
very.
yeah. What's the actual term for that where it's just like
I've just always called it, delayed ejaculation, but as opposed to premature ejaculation. So what is it? What
I
exactly
can't
is
think of it.
post-orgasmic illness syndrome? Do we have the definition of that, or are we just going to call it by name?
Well, yeah, well, the last thing on the list is I always say this wrong. Dyspareunia. Post-orgasmic illness syndrome is something that happens in people with a penis. After they come, they get sick.
Never had it, but
And
I know it
that's it.
exists.
Yeah, they get off and then they get sick.
That would definitely keep me from
like physically ill. Yeah.
bad times.
And then that's it. And I didn't really look into it too much further than that, like how long they're sick for. But it's like, yeah, like how fucking much would that suck? And then the last one, the dyspareunia it's a medical term for painful intercourse, which is not right. It's pain, it's recurring pain in the pelvic or genital area during sexual intercourse. Basically, anything being inserted into the vagina causes pain. So, I mean, you could get off clitorally and not have a problem, but if you tried to like insert a dildo, it could be an issue. So, yeah, so all of those things could cause frustration and then cause issues with self-esteem, moods, things like that. I mean, those are all things that you need to talk to your doctor about anyway. I mean, there's something else going on with most of them that you would need to talk to your doctor about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's all I could find that's bad about masturbation outside of the social stigmas and religious barriers.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
There are always issues with things, and if people aren't comfortable, if they're having a good time, if it's something physically wrong with you, absolutely go see a doctor. Talk. Low libido can be a problem. It could be a sign of
Absolutely.
it could be a sign of something seriously wrong. It's not just, oh, I have no sex drive. It
Mhm.
could be a serious issue. ED could be more than just
Right.
impotency. It could be a lack of blood flow. It could be so many things. So
Absolutely.
if you're having vaginal dryness, can
Yeah.
be more than just I don't have no sex drive. It could be a serious issue. So if you're having any of these issues
And it
over a prolonged period of
and
time, see a
it's
doctor.
not necessarily a serious issue because
No,
that's the
no,
other
no, no,
thing.
no.
Because a lot of people are scared to go to the doctor
Which
to
I
get
don't
checked out
understand.
because they're afraid it is gonna be serious.
That's
They're scared that they're gonna get there and it's gonna be something
that is
serious.
so stupid to be afraid of serious. Again, I know it exists. I've seen it. I just don't understand it.
No, okay. I I would never say that it's stupid. It's not
True. Okay.
stupid. Being scared is incredibly legitimate.
Let me retract that. It bothers me a little bit because
Yeah. Oh,
there's
it bothers me.
there's to not go to a doctor because something could be wrong is the whole
Yeah.
point of a doctor is to go find out what's wrong.
But I'm also the same person who will drive my car until the engine falls out because it's been making a noise, and I don't wanna take it to the mechanic because I don't want the mechanic to tell
That'll
me
cost
that
money.
I need something done to it.
You were a bad example of the doctor metaphor.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Don't listen to me. I'm terrible. Like, I'm that guy that will do that to the mechanic, but I'm also the same guy that we'll do the same thing with the doctor. Don't listen to me. Nurses make terrible patients.
I
Has anyone
will.
ever told you that?
Yes, and so do EMTs. But dude, I'm the exception. I will run to the doctor if something's wrong. Hey, doc, this is not like it's normal should be. This isn't working like it normally does. Fix me now. I have
No,
no hang ups with
I'll
doctors.
diagnose myself
Well, I told you the story. I went. Yeah,
and then tell the doctor I'm fine.
I had strep throat last year, and I went to urgent care to get a doctor's note because they wouldn't let me come to work. Obviously, I had strep throat. But I went there and I did my vitals, waiting for the doctor to come in. Like, here's my vitals. Like, you work in medicine, don't you? Yeah, I'm an EMT. Oh, motherfucker. Sorry. Okay, so are we finally ready for story time now, Sarah?
Yes, okay, story
Story
time. It's fine. It's
time.
fine.
All right, so this
It's your favorite part. I know.
I love our listeners. I love how much they interact with the show. You're the best.
I know. I do too. I
So
do
this,
too. I love our
I've
listeners.
got two, you've got two, or we'll see how many we want to tell. See how long these go, but we'll see. So
Yeah, well, we've told some of them already.
yes,
So
so the first one I've got here is started masturbating at a young age. She says here possibly 7 or 8. She realized she could find other things that felt better than just her hand. And I said earlier, talk about her dad had an old back massager that she found in a drawer that she stole, and her grandmother had one of those tubs with jets. Hi, I like you. You and me get along just fine. And she goes on that
that's
she
awesome.
bought her first vibrator by herself at 13. That really like, whoa. I mean, I didn't know one that Spencer sold vibrators back then anyway. I know they do now, but I didn't know you could do it back then and they would sell them to a 13-year-old. Maybe she looked old. I don't know.
So I'm trying to remember at Spencer's, they sold all kinds of shit and they sold it under, they call them
Yeah,
different things.
novelties, massagers, all that. Like I was saying.
Well, or they had the ones that like they were like a little finger glove
Mm-hmm.
and they just like slid onto your finger. They were like a silicone
Mm-hmm.
and like the finger pad had like little nubbies on it and then it vibrated and it was just like finger vibrator massager. And like and that was it. And that was like, yeah, so it wasn't like quote unquote sexual,
Mm-hmm.
but that was 100% what it was for.
And this next one makes me proud to know her because it's just fantastic. She claims, and I believe her because she's not a bullshitter, that she did not masturbate until she was 21 because basically she was tired of her boyfriend not getting her off. Well, she read this book called Cunt, and this line stuck out to her, and she's paraphrasing where he didn't make my clit pound out the guitar solo from Bohemian Rhapsody, so I got rid of him. Great line, love it a lot. So she spent 2 hours in front of a mirrored door, sitting on a towel, spread eagle, looking at her, as she puts it, cash and prizes, and literally just started feeling things out, and kablam, there it was. That to me is a pretty empowering. That's a pretty
Nice.
empowering story. Like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Let's dig around.
That's
Compared
awesome.
to my last story, before I put the mic over to you to tell your stories, of who I'm calling the sexual MacGyver. Being a pervert and having a mechanical brain have led to some interesting masturbation devices. Up and down? No. Let's go in circles. A few hours in the garage, and you can put together a nice sleeve into the cylinder of a pump and fashion an attachment that connects to the other end of a cordless drill. But that alternative method, you also get a sort of horror story. Okay, the device rotating is awesome, but not so much when it comes in contact with pubic hair. However, second time around was much better. The path had been torn.
Oh
I will
no.
give him credit for the MacGyver nature, but that might jump into a little bit more of the dangerous behavior we were talking about earlier, just maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that 100% falls into like the just oh.
So did you want to share one or two more? Or did you want to?
Yeah, no. I've
All
got
right, go
one. I've
ahead.
got one.
Shoot.
All right. So first time I discovered masturbation was completely accidental around 12. I think I basically rubbed up against a throw pillow on my bed, reaching for a book or toy, and was like, oh, what's this? Rubbed up against it again with no knowledge of how to do things properly. I basically used the pillow to rub up against it like a dog humping furniture until orgasm. No lube, no stopping. You can imagine the chafing issue that would come along with it after long periods
Yeah.
of going after it. And it didn't stop me until I tried using my hand because I was too raw. Still did not know that I was supposed to use lube, but every time I see the show Big Mouth, I just nod my head when I see one of the characters fucking their pillow because I know I was not fully alone with that thought process.
They make whole pornos of that. So no, she was not alone.
I'm pretty sure that was a he.
Still, I just said
Yeah.
I did it myself. I said, with just a mattress and my sleep pants. So
Yeah.
I mean, hey, whatever.
And then, okay, so I've got one
Okay.
more. So I don't know if you ever saw those display sets where you could build an entire underwater scene of fish, sharks, scuba divers, etc. And I remember these.
Absolutely.
What you did was you set up the aquarium-sized case with a backdrop, and you pour in a ton of water. Then you add powder, stir it, and it would turn the water into a gelatin. It would then be see-through. You could add fish and whatever. You could. So basically, you put the stuff in, and it would sort of solidify the water enough that you could add stuff to it, and it would be suspended. So anyways, it took a while for it to solidify completely. So for days, it was just sort of a gel. So in putting some of the models in, some of the gelatin got on his hand. I played with it. I played around with it until an idea came into my head. What would this feel like on my dick? Being a horny teenager who still hadn't learned about the need for lubrication when masturbating, I decided to try this. Taking scoops of the gelatin from the top, I would use it while masturbating, and I kept using it, skimming the top until the liquid finally hardened completely. After that, I started to pick up lotion to use.
See, when I heard that the first time, my mind went to he was going to fuck the tub, like just like stick his dick into the gel. That was where I was going with it. But kudos to him for the ingenuity. Yes, I'm a bit jealous. I didn't try that myself because I had one of those when I was a kid. I never thought about it.
Did you?
I'm gonna screw this fish tank real quick.
That's awesome.
So, again, thank you all so much, you guys, for picking this topic to talk about. I think we had 4 great topics, but this one really brought it home. I think it was a good, fun topic. But
it was a great topic.
We need your help again for something else now. Okay? We have our next topic planned out, but we need your input.
Yes.